Economics touches many parts of our lives. Jobs, education, health, security. The economy provides the foundation for much of what we value in our society and is central to all our efforts to improve the world. So when the economic system breaks, it spares no one. But during pivotal times in our history, we've learned that crisis and trauma also offer us a rare opportunity. An opportunity to work together to create real, lasting change. This is one of those times.
If we are going to have a world that is sustainable, that is at peace, and that does promote justice and equity, we have to reinvent the economic model that prevails.
The idea that something had to be done to reform economics started with some conversations I had with George Soros back in January 2009 at the World Economic Forum in Davos. The crisis was still very much in its most intense phase, and it was becoming increasingly evident that the economics profession not only had been partly responsible for causing the crisis, but had nothing constructive to say about how to pull the world out of it. So it occurred to me to say to George, you've been trying to reform the economics profession for the last 10, 15, 20 years. You've been a voice crying in the wilderness, but this is an opportunity when your voice is actually going to be heard.
We flew people in from as far as Hong Kong, California, London, to come meet for 2 days, dawn to dark, at his home in Bedford, New York.
This wasn't some club of like-minded thinkers who all think the same way. This was a remarkable group, I think, 3 Nobel Prize winners, other leading economists.
We experienced what you might call confessional kind of energy. People who are very powerful, talking about their frustration in the profession.
One of the most famous economists in the world, a man who won Nobel Prize, said that he had given up teaching graduate students because he realized that any graduate student taught by him outside the rational expectations paradigm would not be able to get an entry-level job in any top-level American institution.
When you get a situation that the great economic thinkers, like a Keynes, wouldn't be published in a leading journal anymore, one really has to ask why.
I think clearly one of the things that went wrong, both in the activity of policymakers and simply the risk management tools of major investment banks, was these extraordinary assumptions that you could just derive probability distributions from the past of the way that the economy operated and assume that that was the probability distribution of the way that it would operate in the future.
One silver lining out of this very gloomy cloud is that events like the Great Depression, the Great Recession of 2008, really are ways that we test our theories. When everything is going on normally, we don't have a good test. In the same way that our understanding of the human body is really enhanced by pathology, seeing how it doesn't work.
INET was born at the Bedford Summit, and with an initial investment from George Soros, it quickly became a catalyst for new thinking about how to reform our economic system and get economists to better serve both policymakers and our society at large.
George Soros has been a visionary for a long time, and when Eastern Europe was going through a transformation period, he was way ahead of the curve, creating the open society and supporting freedom of ideas. He changed the nature of thinking in Eastern Europe. I believe with INET, he's going to do, I hope, the same with economics.
It's probably one of the most important initiatives that I've been involved in, and certainly the one which has the most remarkable response.
The first official INET conference took place at King's College in Cambridge, England, where in the 1930s, John Maynard Keynes demonstrated great intellectual courage in a time of crisis and helped reinvent economics in his time.
business practice, it was one oversimplified strain which dominated in the pre-crisis years.
The Institute certainly seems to be off to a promising start. I mean, the fact that they've attracted such a blue-chip list of people to come to this first conference, I think that alone is extremely encouraging.
You had everything from mainstream Chicago economists to mainstream Harvard economists to Nobel laureates to Keynesians, Marxists, people who are very critical of having any math at all in economics.
Most constructive developments in economics have actually occurred across boundaries between different approaches. You know, it's a very creative process if you can have a good conversation.
My mission in this conference is only one thing: to form a community. The idea that you can be with the head of the Department of University of Chicago and a left-wing Keynesian or Marxist from Cambridge, England, or from Italy, and you can all be in the same room and you can explore issues, was only possible because this crisis destroyed the confidence in expertise in the economics profession.
Now, this has been a wake-up call. I think we are at a point where there needs to be a rethinking of the economics profession.
We need to get going.
How do intellectual revolutions occur? You have to unite the idea that there's something wrong. We're not quite clear what, but there's something wrong with the existing body of theory, the basic paradigms. This is clearly where we are in economics today. But you also need to motivate a large number of young people. They don't have to protect their past legacy. They need new ideas because that's how they break away from the past and create great reputations for themselves. Now, I see the real role of a new institute trying to drive such a revolution is to marry this genuine sense of malaise about what economics has to offer in finance and macroeconomics with the drive of the young. 50 years from now, people will look back to and say, that's how a new way of thinking originated.
So I guess one of the interesting things for my generation to see in economics will be whether the world is as stationary as people would have us believe. The question would be whether other kind of fundamental changes like climate change, which would change the way the entire world is structured, how that will affect the way we think about economics.
The future of research in economics is interdisciplinary. And the only way to foster that is through conversation between the disciplines. So how history can learn from math-based economics and how model-based approaches to financial markets can learn from financial history.
This is really a good time for the economics profession. It's a very exciting time for young people because it's a time where people can begin to question the reigning paradigm.
INET's goal is to accelerate changes in economic theory, policy, and practice by empowering the next generation of economists through initiatives like awarding a wide range of grants and setting up task forces for deep research in new or neglected fields, holding conferences that bring together diverse constituencies to spark breakthrough ideas.
As countries get richer, life expectancy improves rapidly.
The crisis is broader than the financial crisis, not about finance, it's really about people across the world.
INET will also grow a vibrant online community for sustained collaboration that gives voice to the next generation of economic thinkers. And finally, INET will be forming partnerships at leading universities to invigorate and consistently nurture the leading edge of scholars. We live in a critical moment in history, facing many daunting challenges, where the solutions are highly dependent on sound economics. Because of INET, people from around the world are working together to fundamentally change how the global economy operates in the 21st century. Our goals are bold and ambitious. And to scale up the work we've just begun, it will take enormous resources, people, money, and time. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to transform economics as we know it. But we need your help to succeed. Please join us.